The influence in our academic institutions is pervasive. It is there isn't any doubt. I mean, I don't you really can't avoid it. It has become a very progressively influenced environment, whether it's freedom of speech, freedom of thought, the type of classes, and just the useless majors and that have been pushed upon the students, so that they're really just not properly prepared to enter the global marketplace, much less the United States. When it comes to nurturing the future executives, we have some very bright students leading our institutions. They're the brightest, the best in the world. But the introduction to basic economic principles and what are the drivers to to capitalism, to free trade-based economies is skewed. Their view of what that is and why it's important and what are the sustaining factors for those economic vehicles is skewed. It is influenced. See that in their decisions. The shareholders, though, are shareholders. They're looking for value in the companies in which they've made an investment. And again, it takes time for a company's valuation to be affected by some of these decisions that are brought forward by people that may not necessarily have a lot of experience in the business place. Vice presidents today tend to be younger. They don't have a lot of experience. They move from company to company on a more frequent basis. That has an effect on their level of common sense, the level of acumen they have in looking at certain business situations. And you're seeing a lot of companies today are making very poor business decisions where they're making investments. And they're also taking subsidies from the U.S. government based upon certain agreements. And that's unfortunate. But shareholders push back when their companies don't have value, when they don't see increased dividends, when they see a company not being innovative, not really going to where it's clear in their minds that the company should be going. The shareholders are going to push back. But you're right, Ken. The sources of education today are significantly influenced, and the students that are entering the workforce today don't have the practical experience that perhaps people of their same age had years ago. They don't have summer jobs, didn't grow up with the same secondary and university type of experience. Didn't work a part-time job through college. Today kids aren't even taught penmanship. Some places are not even taught basic arithmetic. So when there's an answer that's software driven, then why does a student necessarily know how a solution was actually calculated and formulated? And what does that mean in terms of the broader business space? I mean, these are all very generalized comments, but we do have a problem in the United States with that regard. We absolutely do.
Thanks, Hampton. Appreciate that perspective and all your insight, especially on a global level. What are your thoughts on the education?
Well, if I were to be elected at any point in fantasy land, that would be the first department that I defunded and tried to abolish. I think we do our country a disservice by having a monocular view on education. I don't think that we are served by a certain political group or ideology mandating the philosophies that are taught in our colleges and our grade schools, for that matter. Okay, we used to teach. The purpose of education was to teach people to think. I think we're teaching people to accept the ideology that they're being presented now. I don't think we teach. I personally will not hire a college graduate that hasn't had a job and proven that he makes appropriate decisions, because I have not. There's a lot of college students that I've adopted basically, but they come out and I have to educate them. I have to teach them where they were lied to, and I mean lied. I mean current academics changing definitions and changing political charts. It's scary, the length to which they will go to indoctrinate our children to their point of view. They don't leave it to them to make a decision. They tell them what to do, which is why we don't allow dissent on college anymore, which is why you see on the news every night certain political activists are going on campus and challenging that to happen. And then you're seeing these student bodies come out at the advice of their counselors and to shut debate and to shut dissent down. There is no place for dissent on our colleges. That is the opposite of what they were designed to do originally. If you go back to early England and the colleges that were there, they had debate societies that were honored and revered. Today, they're despised and done away with. Instead, they go to a cry room with crayons. Would you hire an executive that needed a cry room and crayons to deal with his stress? I won't.
Other than defunding the entire educational system, what are some steps we could take to have healthy debates and bring back some healthy dialogue and start some conversations that'll lead to, I don't want to use the word compromise, but to a place where it's meaningful for everyone?
Well, I think first of all we have to get back to the point of view that what I believe is not necessarily what you have to believe. Okay, right now one of our problems is I have the belief whatever you want to do is cool. Though I don't go do it, and what you create will be reflected in what you receive. I'll do my thing. I'm not asking for anybody to support me or be behind me. I'll just make my own decisions. Some of the other people say, well, I'm correct, therefore you must do what I say, and if you don't, you're offending me, therefore you're affecting me. That was not how this country was designed to be run. The United States has always been a beacon of freedom, and it's been different than other countries. What some in the United States seem to want to do is become equal to or the same as European society, or what they consider to be the acceptable society, whether they're socialistic, fascist, and they don't realize that they're slipping quickly towards fascism. And I think that what we've always valued here is the fact that we can each do our own thing. We can each seek our own happiness. And if you disagree with me, we can have that discussion, but we can walk away friends. I have lots of friends that I disagree with. And I don't particularly get angry during the conversation. It's not personal to me. But I have some other friends that can't have that conversation because it is intense anger and intense. And that's teaching that, or wherever that has come from, I think is a good majority of our problem. This thing that we can't have dissent, and you're not allowed to say what you want to do if it offends me. That we got to get rid of that. So I think those are the changes we really need to identify. And again, I think we need to get back to supporting the Constitution. The Supreme Court, some of their recent decisions for free speech are just going to have a tremendous impact as long as the current administration and our education systems and all that don't spend all their time trying to get around the decision. But that's the problem. They don't accept the decision. They just try to figure a new way around it. I have to admit I'm guilty of that a lot of times. I read the rules to find out what they didn't think about. But nevertheless, I think when you're looking for a way to get around the Constitution, that's treason, in my opinion. When you take an oath to support and defend the Constitution against enemies foreign and domestic, and you choose to undermine the Constitution, to me that's not a faux pas, that's treason. And we have a lot of people in government that I consider treasonist. So, that's strongly stated, but it's a truth. That's just what I think.
Well, the Constitution was written for us, not for the government.
That's correct. It was a limit, not permission. And those things that are not in there should revert to the state, i.e. education. Get it out of the federal government and put it back to the states. That will reflect the nation better than what we have.
Well, let's hope there's some change coming down the pipe, and let's hope that we can talk about it and have healthy conversations.
I hope people can talk without getting angry and listen to each other's point of view. I think that will go a long way towards solving the problem.
I think it will too.
Well, I can add
So,
one point to that.
yeah,
The more informed the public is, the better decisions that will be made. You know, the challenge goes back to part of our earlier conversation, is that where do people get their information, and is it credible? In a society like that we have today, across the world, across the globe, more business decisions, more purchases are made on an iPhone. Almost 98% of all purchases made in the around the world are originated on a mobile device. And the overwhelming majority of information, news, features, entertainment that certainly the age group of 45 years and younger, where it originates from, is typically on a mobile device. So, the challenge is to provide the information, make the right information available to them if they choose to seek out the right information. And a well-informed electorate will make the right decisions. The United States, being different than most countries, is that we don't make political decisions in the streets. We make it in the voting booth. And as long as there's integrity there, then we look for a strong individual that's going to represent us in the proper legislative bodies or as the president. That was a problem in the last electoral cycle. A lot of people have questioned that, and I think they're quite right to make those questions. So it'll be very interesting how things move forward, because we do need to make some changes so that the right business climate can be created, so that the economy can get on the right footing, that our school system can have the proper representation. Parents can have the right role to play with their kids as they grow to enter society. So it all boils down to the individuals, us, you and me, our parents, our friends. If we're well informed and we make the right decision, ultimately that's where change will occur in the right and thoughtful manner.
I think that's solid advice. Thank you, Hampton. Before you defund the entire education system, let's talk a little bit about defunding police. I want to bring on George Chavez. He's a retired San Antonio police detective with 20 years of service. He served on their tactical response unit, crime response unit, and he was a physical training and defense tactical instructor at the police academy. He's also a former U.S. Marine Infantry. He's trained over 2,000 officers and deputies nationally in the use of the police baton. He's also the president and founder of Viciously Loyal, an apparel company with a message of service. Hey, George, how you doing?
Hey, gents, how y'all doing today?
Doing great.
It's good to see most of you.
Wonderful to hear from you, George.
George,
Good.
as a retired Marine and police officer, what have you observed? Have you observed, I guess, any political polarization manifesting in your experience?
Well, of course, right? We all lived through it. We all saw the defund the police movement, which was, it was catastrophe in most major cities. I think the messaging was all wrong in that. If anybody were to tell me that 5-7 years ago that I would hear this message of defund the police, I would have said no way. But we've always talked about language that says reimagine or rethink what the police job is. And I guess specifically I mean that in the mental health realm. So if anybody, I think the language was completely wrong on that, and some people took it and ran with it. Defund the police was not a good concept. But if you were to tell me even 5, even 10 years ago, hey, let's reimagine what we're going to do with our police force and how we're going to use them, I would have been all ears.